teret mor ulevona, mor ulevona dordili, dordili panilo, ashashani dordili.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Bit to Bit. Special warm welcome to those of you who've come into the sanctuary, and welcome also to those online. We start our service tonight on page 118, and the candles will be lit by Brenda Rees.
As these candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Good Shabbos. Thank you. And before we continue with the service, I mean, you all are probably aware of the concept of flash fiction, which is, like you have a novel in maybe 50 lines. Well, I'm going to do one of these flash sermons, one of the ones that I get on my WhatsApp. Parashat Re'eh. You shall separate the tithe of your crop in that year and place it in your cities, and the stranger and the orphan and the widow who are in your cities will come and eat and be satisfied, so that God will bless you in all the work of your hands that you will do. It's only through giving and sharing with those less fortunate that our income and possessions are blessed and can be considered to have been fully deserved. Shabbat Shalom. We will continue on page 130, and I'm going to start by reading at the top. Lechuna ranana l'Adonai, naria l'tzu yeshenu, nakadmav fanav b'toda bizmirot naria lo. Ki el gadol Adonai umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher bayado mechkarei aretz v'toafot harim lo, asher lo hayam v'hu asahu v'yabesh et yadav yetzaru, bo'u nishtachave v'nechra'a nevracha lifnei Adonai osenu, ki hu Eloheinu v'anachnu am marito v'atzon yado, hayom im b'kolo tishma'u. Oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day. And I will continue on page 131. I'm going to read the first little bit in Hebrew, and then we're jumping to page 132. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai bachu shemo, basru miyom layom yeshuato, sapru v'goyim kavodo, b'chol ha'amim niflotav. Page 132, the indented section, and if you'd like to read along with me, that would be super. Let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult. Let the sea and all within it thunder. The fields and everything in them exult. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy at the presence of the Eternal One. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its peoples in faithfulness. Page 134. Hariu l'Adonai kol haaretz, pitzchu v'rananu v'zameru. Zamru l'Adonai b'chino v'kol zimra, b'chatzrot v'kol shofar, Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the world and its inhabitants. Let the rivers clap their hands, the mountains sing joyously together at the presence of the Eternal One. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its peoples with equity. Page 136, and the choir will sing Metzmor LaDavid, Psalm 29.
Havul Adonai pnei elim, Havul Adonai kavod va'oz, Havul Adonai kevod shemo, Ishtachavu Adonai be'avrat kodesh, Kol Adonai, Kol Adonai b'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Yishaver Adonai et hazer halvanon.
Vayakidem kamo egel, Lanon v'Zion kamo Kol
Adonai chotzev lehavot Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh.
Kol Adonai Yachol el hayalot, V'yechisav yeharot, Uv'heichalo kolo merkavot.
Adonai lama bo yashav vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oz le'amo yiten Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom.
Page 138, the choir will sing Lecha Dodi.
Likrat
So let's take a few moments and greet each other. Ishba'a lo yeda, a brute cannot know. Uchsil lo yavinet zot, a fool cannot understand this. The righteous bloom like a date palm, they thrive like a seed in Lebanon. Planted in the Eternal One's house, they flourish in our God's courts. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that God is upright. My rock in whom there is no wrong. We come now to the Chatzi Kaddish, page 144. If you're able to, please rise.
Tushbechata v'nechemata tamiran v'alma v'yimeru. Amen. Lamdeini Elohai barech v'yitpalel al sod alekamer al boga pri basher al ha'cherut azot lirot lachush linshom לדעת לייחל להיכשל למד את שפתותי ברכה ושיר הלל והתחדש זמנך עם בוקר ועם ליל לבל יהיה יומי היום כתמול שלשום לבל יהיה עלי יומיר הגר ברכו את אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד ברכו את אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Thank you. Please be seated, and we will continue on page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma potech she'arim, uvitvuna mishane etim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsadeh et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kietzuno. Page 149. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, eternal our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל אמרת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת
Melacha al tasir mimenu lo alamin. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We come now to the Shema, page 152. If you're able to, please rise. Page 154. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lavavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol mo'odecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shiftecha b'veitecha u'vlechtecha v'derech u'v'shofpecha u'v'komecha u'kshatam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. V'yomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, v'amata alehem v'yasu lahem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem ladorotam. V'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf patil techelet, v'haya lachem letzitzit oritem oto. Uschatem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam. V'lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem asher atem zonim achareihem. Leman tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liyot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem emet. Please be seated. And I'm reading at the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Nor rot he lot or sefele
שנאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 160. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותקננו בעצה טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך. Page 161. Give us a place to rest, eternal our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל. אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
We turn now to page 164. We're coming to the tefillah. It's also known as the Amidah, and it's the standing prayer, so I'm going to ask you to stand.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'Elohei moteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
Page 168. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מחלקל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים. ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. Page 170. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. Page 172. אתה קידשת את יום השביעי לשמך, תכלית מעשה שמיים וארץ, וברכתו מכל הימים וקידשתו מכל הזמנים, וכן כתוב בתורתך.
ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, רוצה במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך. סבנו מטובך ושמחנו בישועתך. והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו, באהבה ורצון שבת קודשך, וינוחו וישראל מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל, ותפילתם לאהבה תקבל, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל. Lezion.
77 at the top. God of goodness, we are grateful for your many bounties, for the protecting care with which your love shelters us, for the knowledge that wherever we are in your presence. May your teachings enrich our lives and challenge us to give evidence of our devotion. May our words and our deeds hallow your name and make us worthy of your blessings. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulcha na'eh lehodot. Page 178, prayer for peace, so important in this time. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. V'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'v'chol sha'a bishlomecha. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael v'shalom. Please be seated. Let's just take a few moments for our own silent meditations. The Torah portion this week is re'eh, and that word re'eh means see. And the portion contains this well-known paragraph. See, I set before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, Moses proceeds to explain, will come about because you shall heed the commandments of the eternal your God that I command you today. And the curse, if you will not heed the commandments of the eternal your God, but turn away from the way I command you this day to follow other gods that you did not know. The Lubavitcher Rebbe's commentary on this reads as follows. See, Moses is giving the children of Israel the power of sight to perceive the true nature of evil is nothing more than a transmutation and distortion of the divine good. When evil is thus seen, it can be transformed into the good that it essentially is. The notion of seeing is, of course, a powerful one, and this evening I'd like to share with you an interpretation of this parsha by somebody called Hannah Perlberger, and she's an author, attorney, spiritual teacher, and a coach. She begins with a quotation by John Lubbock, who was a 19th century English. He was a banker, he was a liberal politician, he was a philanthropist, a scientist, and a polymath. And he said, What we do see depends mainly on what we look for. In the same field, the farmer will notice the crop, the geologists, the fossils, botanists, the flowers, artists, the coloring, sportsmen, the cover for the game. Though we may all look at the same things, it does not all follow that we should see them. So one would think perception is the key. We use the phrase seeing is believing. Perception has come to be synonymous with reality, but perception depends less on what we see than who we are. Robertson Davies tells us that the eye sees only what the mind is prepared to comprehend. Basically, what we see when we look is a choice, in that we see what we're looking for. And this brings us to something known as perception bias. In 2007, the theory of perception bias was tested in a really interesting way. Joshua Bell, who's one of the world's great violin virtuosos, and is one of the biggest names in classical music, he went busking just inside the entrance to the Washington, D.C. metro. It was the middle of morning rush hour. Joshua Bell was dressed in a long-sleeve T-shirt, he had jeans on, he had a baseball cap, so basically most people weren't going to recognize him. He opened his violin case and he took out his violin, which just happens to be a Stradivarius from 1713, and he started to play. And in the space of 43 minutes, he performed 6 classical pieces, 2 from Bach, 1 Massenet, and 1 each from Schubert and Pons. The Washington Post had known about this experiment, and they joined Bell in his tuneful test, and they recorded that out of 1,097 people who passed by Joshua Bell, 27 gave money, and only 7 actually stopped and listened for any length of time. Curious toddlers, not yet permeated by perception bias, who wanted to stop and listen, were yanked along by impatient parents not interested in listening to a subway musician. And one wonders if any of those who walked past him were the same people who would have been going to his concert that night and paying $100 a ticket. So how successful was Joshua Bell as a busker? In total, he made $52.17. And that includes a $20 note from someone who actually did recognize him. So in reality, he only earned $32.17. Not very good for a busker, and not very good for a world-famous musician. But back to perception. Our brains process billions of bits of information per second, but we can only process a few dozen of them. Our brains choose which infinitesimal sliver out of all the possible realities to look at. And then our bias tells us how to interpret that sliver. It's all a choice. As such, our perceptions are biased, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. We talk of a negativity bias, and that's what keeps us alive. In other words, we're constantly scanning for a threat in the environment, and that made a lot of sense many millions of years ago. If there was a saber-toothed tiger coming in the door, you want to know about it, and your brain wants to be able to react. Hence the word re'eh, see. Is the text not telling us to look at the choices before us? The text says, see, I have set before you today life and good, death and evil, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life, that you and your offspring may live. Well, that sounds pretty easy. Anyone can get that right. But just to make sure, we are told which choice to make. If we need to be directed to make the obvious choice, is it possible that the choice is in fact not so obvious? Maybe we don't see things as clearly as we think we do. So how do you make perception bias work for you? First, we must decide what it is we want to see, because we always and inevitably find what we are looking for. The Talmud teaches this concept. One who says he has looked but hasn't found, don't believe him. If he says he has found and hasn't looked, don't believe him. Only the one who says he has both looked and has found can be believed. And that's from Megillah 6b. And yet no one is without perception bias. The question is, how can we make that work for us instead of against us? And again, the answer is the choice that we make. Do you want to find something to criticize in a person? You will. Do you want to find the negative in a situation? You will. Thoreau said that a fault finder will find fault even in paradise. Moses told us that when we choose to see Torah as life-giving and then make choices so as to live in alignment with that reality, we are choosing life. But it's not easy and certainly not obvious, given the state of this world. Often we are enamored of things and actions that are anti-Torah, and we make choices where we are confused between blessings and curses, life and death. The Torah is called the tree of life, and a tree has many branches and many leaves. So look at it. Look at it with the deliberate intention of seeing something good, of seeing something in a new light that will help you get a little bit closer to God and a little more loving of your fellow man. Says Hannah Perlberger, seeing the difference between a blessing and a curse requires knowing what they are. And how do we know? By learning what a blessing or curse is in the eyes of our Creator, by seeing reality not through our subjective and distorted eyes, but through a godly lens, as revealed to us by Torah. In short, it's not so much that seeing is believing, but rather that believing is seeing. Shabbat Shalom. And we will continue our service with the Aleinu, which you'll find on page 586. Do we have an ark opener and an ark closer? Thank you. We have some guests here from Limud.
עלינו לשבח לדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה. שלא אשם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומשיב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגודל מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס עולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום לשב אותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אנוש.
tomorrow with hope made stronger by the vision of your realm. A world where poverty and war are banished, where injustice and hate are gone. Teach us more and more to share the pain of others, to heed your call for justice, to pursue the blessing of peace. Help us, O God, to gain victory over evil, to bring nearer the day when all the world shall truly be one.
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
I will continue on page 593, and I'm going to do reading number 2. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. And this Shabbat, we remember from Bet David, John Wessels, brother of Juanita Levine, Rabbi Charles Wallach, brother of the late Ruth Wallach, and remembered by his brother-in-laws Simon Dimant and the South African Progressive Movement, Shirley Cohen, mother of Derek Cohen, and Wilfred Teper, husband of Muriel Teper and father of Mike Teper. From Bet Menorah in Pretoria, we remember Ivan Chips Siv, past honorary life president of Bet Menorah, and those who've passed away recently. David Wolf, founder member of Bet David, deeply mourned by his family and all at Bet David. Gert Conway, grandfather of Jenna Beale Roberts, mourned by his children and grandchildren. And from Bet Menorah in Pretoria, we remember Irma Brenman, aunt of Giddy Leaf and sister-in-law of Rona Leaf. If anybody has a name that I haven't called out that you would like to call out, please do so. I'm going to start from this side. We also remember all those who lost their lives in wars and those who have no one to remember them. And the Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 598. Yet Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, ve'olma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman ka'ariv v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mavorach le'olam olomei umaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'a v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithada v'yithale v'yithalal Shmei dekudsha berichu. Le'ela min ko bechata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Damiran bo'uma v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. Please be seated, and we'll have some words of greeting from our chairman, Ian Mann. And do we have announcements? Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom to you all, and welcome to those people who are coming up for the first time. I hope we'll see you a lot more. The Cheder service and classes tomorrow will be at 8:20. Rabbi Shimon invites all congregants to make contact with him on the chat, and he'll communicate with you that way. He'll be back with us at the beginning of September, thankfully, and they will solve a number of problems, and we'll be very, very, very happy to have him back. We invite all congregants to a Hora and Havdalah service at Bet David this Saturday, that's the 12th, from 4:30 to 6. The Hora dancing will be taught by Michelle Goodman, who, by the way, was a professional dancer with Bat-Dor in sorry?
Wow.
Yeah, Bat-Dor, I think it was Bat-Dor or the Tel Aviv one. And musicians from Beit Luria will lead the service. There'll be please bring some vegetarian foods or anything else we can snack on. This is an opportunity to both experience Havdalah and also to get together with other people from our community. The first audio lecture on Jewish philosophy by Rabbi Bukatz is now available. And should you wish to register to find out more about this, please, if you wish to register, please contact our office, or Diane over there, and we'll tell you more about that. What's being circulated at the moment is background to the first philosopher that we're talking about, who is Sadia Gaon. And then we're going to have before Shabbat services, I think it's in 2 weeks, right? We're going to have a meeting before that, and we'll discuss a part of Rabbi Sadia Gaon's philosophy. But we'd like you all to have the background before that, so we're sending around the tapes. If you haven't registered for that and required the tapes, please let the office know, and we'll send them on to you. And should anybody wish to sponsor Shabbat service, bracha, or give chocolates to celebrate the Simcha, please do so. And we conclude with the singing of
Don Olam, page 625. Thank you, musicians. Thank you, technical desk. People, please, we've got some refreshments at the back, so please join us for Kiddush and the challah, and yeah, please come and socialize.
Shalom, Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Hey, Shabbat, Shalom.